So the president announced 2 days ago on Twitter, he said he would be signing an executive order halting immigration into the country. That got a lot of the people who voted for him on that basis excited. However, he's since backtracked. He said that this immigration executive order, which he just tweeted that he'll be signing this morning, he revealed yesterday at the White House press briefing that it will only apply to people with green cards, so aka permanent residents, will last only a period of 60 days. It will not affect any workers entering the country on a temporary basis. I wanted to bring you Tucker Carlson's take first, and then Krystal and I are going to talk about it. Let's take a listen to that.
There's only one point in handing out hundreds of thousands of these visas to foreign nationals, and it's to placate big business. Employers always and everywhere want to hire workers for less, in this case for less than Americans make, and these visas let them do it. And now they'll continue to do it at a time when more than 22 million Americans have just filed for unemployment. You may have just lost your job, but you'll be happy to know that Accenture can still import IT workers from Asia who will work for less than you once made. So if the point of this executive order was to protect American jobs, maybe there was another point, but if it was to protect American jobs, it failed.
So that's the right-leaning perspective on why this immigration executive order is kind of betrayal to the Trump base. So much of the Trump base viewed immigration, particularly guest workers, coming into the country as competition with workers, with low-wage workers, particularly black and Hispanic workers who are here legally or who are American citizens, and a competition in the wage marketplace.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to talk about it with you is because at the same time, these guest workers, from an exploitation perspective, are the ones who are being worst exploited by corporations and by big business. This entire thing is just like so much of what the bailout has become is a corporate giveaway, is that so many of these corporations want to keep cheap labor coming in, and they don't have any wage protection, and many of them don't have any immigration protection. I'm not saying I'm even necessarily in favor of that. I would rather have a tighter labor market. I mean, we have the most slack labor market in the history of the United States right now. But if you look, no matter which way you look at it, populist right, populist left, this is a disaster.
But and you know exactly where it came from.
Of course I do.
It's because who has Trump been listening to and talking to from the beginning of this crisis? It's been corporate executives. So he gives them their way, even on an issue that, and this is where, you know, he's ultimately been, I think, a failure in terms of the issues that his base actually elected him to take care of, because he's always privileged that corporate perspective over the promises that he made to this base. And I think that's Tucker's point, and that's exactly what's illustrated here. But yeah, this is absolutely the most exploitative part of the immigration system. The fact that you're going to go ahead and make sure that this piece is taken care of for corporations is, you know, I think par for the course in D.C., frankly. It's exactly the way that, you know, a Mitt Romney or another sort of standard issue corporate Republican.
Actually, Mitt Romney's always been good on immigration. But the rest of them, people like Chuck Grassley and others, that's definitely what they want. And this is the fundamental contradiction of the Trump administration. Like you said, he comes in, and again, the man's instincts are correct, which is, look, in my view, in the worst job loss history in America, and the worst job losses in American history, of course you don't want foreign labor to compete with domestic wages. Now, you may disagree with that. You can say, hey, let's just raise the minimum wage and let's have protections and everybody can just have a government protection. Fine. I accept that as a reasonable position. I disagree with it. But however, you look at this and you're saying, so not only are we going to continue to let low-wage workers compete for wages, but we're also, like you said, if you want to look at it from the left perspective, these guest workers have no protection whatsoever, continue to be exploited by big business, and in the end, who benefits? It's these massive agricultural conglomerates. These are the people who want to pay $3.50 under the table and have all these special permissions written into California law. Also, they can have more profit on food. And I already know how this came about, which is that there are so many people who work in the White House who do not agree with any of the reasons on why Donald Trump was elected and are just acting like Jeb Bush is still the president of the United States. I think that if he'd actually followed through on this immigration order, he would have been overwhelmingly popular amongst not just the base, a lot of voters. Immigration, according to the Pew polling, #1 issue outside of coronavirus that's on top of voters' minds. So I think this is the perfect example of the Trump issue. He teed it up for himself and then undercut it with this green card order.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I also think that, one of the underlying points and questions that's always raised here is, but Americans won't do those jobs, right? They won't
Nobody
pick this job, right? They won't clean that. They won't do these jobs. Right. So we need these workers. And that's true if you're going to pay them, less than minimum wage, and give them no health care and all of those things. And these companies don't want to pay what it would take or have even the worker protections and the safety that would be required in order to have Americans willing to do these jobs. And look, I think the American people have made this Faustian bargain where we have put, and this just isn't just about immigration, this is also about like the Walmartization and the Amazonization of our country, is that we've put cheap prices above absolutely everything. And that has become like the central value of America is essentially anything is justified as long as it lowers our prices, as if what we really need and are lacking for is like more cheaply made crap in America. And that's sort of the value that this speaks to, is privileging that over anything else, especially at a time when, unemployment may be as high as 20% here in the very near future. We're going to get new unemployment numbers tomorrow, but it's certainly at historic levels.
And it's so funny. I hear it from these corporatists who just want mass labor with no protections or wage workers and just want mass immigration. They're like, what do you want to do? Pay $6 for an avocado? I'm like, is avocado an essential service?
Right.
Like, I didn't realize that. Yeah, sure, I'll pay $6. I don't really like them that much. I like a little bit, but sure, maybe that's the bargain that we have to have.
Avocado.
I would like that so that Black and Hispanic people who have been overwhelmingly taken advantage of in our labor market for decades could get higher wages. That is a bargain I'm actually willing to make. And to give you a perfect illustration of who this type of immigration policy benefits anywhere else, we can turn to Fox and Friends from this morning. Let's take a listen.
The president came out when the president came out yesterday and said, okay, I said I'll pause for 60 days. But he also added for ag workers, for families, and even you mentioned yesterday the au pair, Ainsley, for middle class families. They're going to be allowed to come because they allow people like you to be able to work and do a job that gets you up at 3 in the morning. So that's he's showing he's not tone deaf to there are certain industries that need those legal work visas to come here. So that's important.
Oh, well, Ainsley's going to get her au pair.
Ainsley can get her au pair. And this is what I mean. This is who the immigration system works for. It's so the rich can take so the rich can take low paid foreign labor, pay them not particularly great wages. I'm not saying, I don't know how much Ainsley's au pair gets paid.
Well,
I have no idea.
it's not even
it's just
the
like
point.
The privilege of saying, well, but I need my au pair. And the idea, Brian, that au pairs are a middle class desire, come on, man. Maybe middle class in New York City.
It's also just like how self-fixated these people are, that like their own personal needs are being met. So this must be a good order for the entire country is also incredibly telling. But Ainsley, congratulations that you're going to be able to get your au pair into the country.
Millions of people are out of work and may have to compete at low wage.
I do want to say something else on this, which is that, look, my view on immigration is not the same as Tucker Carlson's. Let's be clear about that. And I think there are legitimate reasons to criticize his approach in terms of a sort of nativist, xenophobe, all of that. But I also think you have to give him credit. Is there anyone on MSNBC who's critical of Democrats in the way that he's willing to be critical of this president?
Zero. No.
I mean, you have to give him credit for that, for being willing to dissent, which has real consequences, as we know, on a mainstream network, on a very highly rated show, one that the president watches and listens to. So it's very high stakes in that way. And I think that, for all the problems with Fox News, which there are many, and it is basically most hours like Republican cheerleading in the way that MSNBC is Democratic Party cheerleading. But I don't think there's any voice on MSNBC at this point that is nearly as independent-minded as he is.
No, never. And, Tucker has always been, look, not always, and he would be the first person to tell you.
Yeah.
In recent years, he has been the person who does not care whether he departs in the Trump administration or not. His job is not to serve as a cheerleader for them. And one of the things that actually drives me crazy about the whole, Tucker, Trump TV is if you watch that show, it is almost never, A, about Trump, But B, when it is about Trump, it's critical in this way on Iran, on Syria, on this
the early days of the coronavirus
coronavirus crisis.
Yeah.
He has always had a mind for himself. So I think that people need to. I think people need to give that credit wherever it's due.
Well, and by the way, a study came out yesterday.
Yes.
University of Chicago studies this like a real thing, comparing Tucker viewers to Hannity viewers in terms of Hannity was, very skeptical of coronavirus. It was a hoax, and it was just like the flu and all that. I don't know if he said the hoax, but I don't want to put words in his mouth. But he did it's just like the flu. Very much downplayed it. Tucker, on the other hand, was very aggressively covering it. One of the earliest, really mainstream anchors to be aggressively covering it. And literally, if you look at their viewerships, Sean Hannity's viewers who were taking that in and, apparently taking more risks because Hannity, who they trusted, told them it was all fine, were more likely to become infected with coronavirus and ultimately die than Tucker's viewers. I mean, it shows you, number one, media matters. Like the media that you consume actually matters in terms of your life and how you live that life. And number two, that the fact that he was willing to dissent from what was the dominant Fox News narrative at that point actually really mattered.
Yeah, it certainly did. All right, we wanted to make sure you guys brought that conversation, and we'll have more Rising for you after this.